Hello everyone! As promised, here I am, and I am going to be making an otter, and I'm just checking sound levels. Okay, we should be okay. Let me know if you can't hear me or anything. So, I took a poll and I wanted to see what you guys wanted me to make, and I will be making this cute little otter. Isn't that just stinky cute? So a lot of people have asked me, how you make this, and I will be doing a couple of classes where I will be providing the needles, the pads, the wool, everything, the instructions. But I figured for those of you who can't attend my class, or for those of you who are just kind of interested but maybe not take it, you can follow along now and ask me any questions that you have in the comments, and I am looking right at the camera, so as they come through I will be glad to answer them. If you do want to purchase this or something else, I do have an Etsy shop and I have some things posted, and I will also be able to, if you're local, I can meet you somewhere or whatnot. So I took a poll and I wanted to see what you guys wanted me to make on this snow day. And one thing was the polar bear. This one is strung, so it could be a cute little ornament. The second one was a snowman. I also, I think I did the cute little curious bunny. How cute is that? The little carrot. I have a fox-tato here too, of course. So I could do the thing. You might hear my dogs in the background. They're adorable. And the otter is just too cute to pass up. So this is what we'll be making. And let me get started. First, I'll try to kind of explain what I'm doing as I'm doing it. If you want to see the puppies. Oh, he just left. Oh well. He's adorable. You heard me knocking around. Okay, so in order to needle felt, you need a couple of things. You need a needle felting needle, which actually looks like this. The needle felting needle, I don't know how close I can get with this, but this one has 3 sides on the tip, and it has little hooks cut into it, and that's what actually takes the fibers and hooks them together, and that's the process of felting. So we have a couple of different wools that we'll be using to make our cute little otter. The cute little otter is totally stinky cute. It's palm sized. You can make it into a brooch. You could put it in a headband. You can put it on a wall. I can string him and you can hang him someplace. He's just really cute to have around, right? So we're going to make the body inside out of core wool, and then we're going to use wool batting to cover him in the color. And I have a couple of different browns. So this is the face color, and then this is the body color, and then I'm thinking we'll do a pink heart instead of the red this time. Alright, so in order to needle felt, like I said, you need a needle felting needle, you need a pad because you can't run this into the table. That would be bad. And felting in the air is just dangerous. So we have a pad to work on, and it's very useful too. When I do the heart, I'll show you how I actually use this pad to make the heart. So we're going to start with the body, and then we're going to add the tail, and the arms, then the face, and the ears, and then the heart. So let's get started. And again, if you have any questions, let me know and I will answer them as we're going along. And I just posted a bunch of new classes on my Facebook and my website, needlefeltedfuzzies.com. So if you're interested and you're in the area, please stop by those sites and see if there's one that you might want to attend. And if you'd like to have a class, let me know. I'm down for private classes as well. The first thing that pretty much all of these start with is what I call the basic roll. And the basic roll is when you take some wool, and I always start, so it's the table edge and then away from me. So this is probably going to be making it one about that size, maybe a little bit bigger. So I take this and I fold, and then I roll it a little bit, and then I'm going to fold in this side, right on top of each other. So you can see how it's like this curly thing. It's just like a trifold brochure. You want to fold it right on top of each other. And that's about how wide the body is going to be. Okay. And now we need to make it a little thicker, so we just keep rolling. I'm using the pad as friction to really get that into a nice tight roll. So now we have this, and I'm going to use my needle. This is the same needle as this, except it's in a handle, that's all. And when you needle felt as much as I do, You need it to be as comfortable as possible. Okay, so I'm focusing right now where the roll ended, and then I'm gonna turn the piece with my left hand and stab with my right. Turn, stab, turn, stab. And I'm going to be making the ends. I bring that over to the side, and I follow the curve because I do want this to be curved. So if I were to stab here, it would flatten that out. I want to stab this way at an angle, okay? So that the way that the needle points is the way that the wool is going to go, okay? And a lot of questions happen at this point, like how do you know when you're done? When should you stop? And to that I say it takes a lot of practice, but if you are in my class, I will have some samples on the tables, and please feel free to pick them up and squish them. This one's fairly firm, but we don't want it to get quite this firm yet because we want it to be soft enough, this to be soft enough to then wrap it and attach the color. And if it's too firm, then it just doesn't attach. It's like if you ever worked with pottery and the pottery's too dry, you just can't attach the next piece. So you want to attach it while it's wet, or you're gonna have to re-wet it and soak it, and do the scoring and everything. Okay, so it doesn't take that long, but it is a little bit of a process. So we just keep stabbing, just keep stabbing. And you notice I'm moving it around, I'm doing the ends, I'm doing the body. Just trying to, the more you move around, the more symmetrical it's going to be and the more evenly felted it will be, which is important because you don't want one piece to be too soft. I can still feel it feels fuzzy to me, which means it's not ready yet. And you're going to start hearing it firm up because once it gets to that density, you'll be able to hear it. Right now you hear this. You're going to hear it a little bit more when it gets to the point where I want it. So if I did this one, it's subtle, but you can definitely tell by hearing it and by feeling it. It'll start to, see how it's like denting in every time I stab it? When it's ready, it's done, it won't do that so much. It has a different feel. Okay. And I'm pinching it slightly as I'm stabbing because I want the fibers to move inwards so that they start overlapping, and then when I stab it, they'll stay in place. If that makes any sense. Okay, now I still want to attach the tail and I want to attach the color, so I'm going to pretty much stop at this point. And kind of, maybe you can see it, gentle pressure. Okay, so this is the basic body shape. And now what I like to do is the tail next. That way the tail will attach underneath, and then as we coat it, the coating will make it that nice smooth transition instead of it being like, let's see, if you can see, you can kind of see where that's attached more than where this is attached. It's very smooth. So I'm going to use color, not the core wool, and I'm going to basically do that same thing. Roll, 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 except I'm only going to fold up one end. Okay. Like this. This part's going to be where it attaches and does not need to be curved under because I want it to be really kind of frayed and easily attached. Now this piece is pretty flat with a little bit of a rounded tail. So I'm just holding it flat on the pad and I'm stabbing back and forth, up and down, but I'm not going at an angle because I want this to be pretty flat. I'm going to flip it so it doesn't stick into the pad, and also because I need to fill both sides. Okay. Hold that a bit of an angle just to get that, the bottom part. You see how this is spreading right here? Watch this. Just keep stabbing. Stabbing right there. I'm just doing a little bit of a focus. Go on the other side, other direction, a little bit of an angle. Squeezing it. Okay. And eventually, as we keep stabbing, and I want to continue stabbing everywhere. Okay. it will fade. Okay. It looks like it was never there. Now I gotta do the other side. So don't worry if you have seams, they will go away with just a little bit of extra care. Now, and then this piece, while we're talking about that, see how the bottom pretty much, the bottom and top, before where you could see it overlapping, now you can't. And that's because I was stabbing it like this, but this is the under piece, so it doesn't really matter that much. You just want it to be pretty even. Okay. So here's what we have so far with the tail. I'm almost done with this piece. I'm gonna squish it down. I'm gonna stab at a little bit of an angle because I want those fibers to kind of curl over that spot where it was showing that seam. Takes a little bit of focus. Okay. All right, so here is the tail. I'm gonna attach the tail. You can see here, if you're laying it down like this, it's at the bottom. So it's not at the center, it's in line. And that'll help it lay down too. So I actually just take this and see all this flappy piece? That's where I'm gonna really attach it. Okay, and you know what? I think I'm gonna do this end. Just a feeling. Okay, I'm gonna stab it right on there. And as I stab it, it's going to kind of squish together, which will help make it look even more seamless. Okay, stab, stab, stab. You want this to be as flat as possible because when we're wrapping it with the color, you want it to be nice and flat. So I just kind of fray out the brown as I'm stabbing, and that'll just help give it that transition. Okay, you want to get it all squished on there. If you guys have any questions, let me know. Okay, and again, not too much because we're not done yet. And as we add more, we're going to continue felting in this area, so we don't want it to be too firm yet. So here is what we have so far. Okay, and now I want to wrap this part. This part is the body and the head. See, it's all one piece. So just keep that in mind. I'm gonna pull off another piece of brown. I've got like wool all over my face. See how fluffy it is? Now I want this to be a nice, even, flat coat. So I'm actually going to pull this in half. And this is just one of those things you get a feeling for as you're going along. And I definitely don't want to seam in the front. So I'm gonna start my wrap in the back. Okay, I'm gonna gently tug on it to pull it as tight as I can all the way around. This piece comes over here, and I just start to kind of stab it on there over the tail. That way it's that nice transition. Okay, and I'm going to roll it again and stab everything into place. I'm trying to use my needle to make sure that it's nice and even, kind of brush it into place. I'm going to stretch it as much as possible just to conserve wool and also to make it nice and even. I'm stabbing at an angle around the tail to start to define that because this is really flappy here. I'm going to stab it right into the base, make it nice and smooth. Now, it doesn't have to be a perfectly flat transition because, you know, it is two different pieces. The tail isn't right on the back if you looked at an actual otter. But it doesn't make it look much smoother. Okay. So now I'm going to stab this end. So you see I flipped it. I'm holding this end as I'm stabbing this side. It's just so that I can, avoid stabbing my fingers as much as possible. Again, I'm kind of squeezing it gently. And I'm stabbing at an angle because I'm on the side of this body. Now if I held it upright, then I could stab. I just need to try to think of it as you're trying to point the needle always towards the middle. So if I'm up here, I'm going into the middle. Here, go in the middle. Here, middle. Always shoot for that middle of the piece. Like there's a core inside the otter. Okay, so I'm kind of gently squeezing it, moving it around. It's not the most exciting thing in the world, but hopefully entertaining enough. Normally what I'd be doing is watching TV or a YouTube video, Netflix. I don't really have TV. We have Netflix and the CBS All Access because we wanted to watch Big Bang Theory and Star Trek. If there's any Trekkies out there, I hope that I don't offend you when I say that Star Trek Discovery is not my favorite. But I did hear that Jean-Luc Picard will be coming back for a new series, so I'm excited about that. Okay, so as you can see, there are some holes here in the back. This is really thin. So now I just add some extra from this other piece that I pulled off, because I know it's about the same thickness. I'm going to take that, and actually, because this is more of a round piece, I'm going to pull this in half and kind of stack it like this, and then lie it down. Okay. And does it have to go the same way? No, not necessarily. Although it is helpful. Especially if you're just beginning. But as you can see, this stuff is so fluffy. It also really depends on what kind of wool you're using. There's batting, there's roving, and then there's a whole bunch of different kinds of mixes. This is a mix of Cordale and Cooper's wool, I think. It's all the wool that I get that are in these baggies that you see is from a farm here in Connecticut, in Haddam, called the Felt House, H-A-U-S. And I buy it right on Etsy from the shop owner, Jennifer. Shout out to the Felt House. She knows how much I love her products. And then the core wool actually came, and you can see the difference in the core wool. This is batting, this is white batting, and then this is core wool, and it's a little bit more creamy colored and a little bit fluffier and not as refined. So the batting is what I use to build up the pieces. So I have that in all different colors. The core wool is what I use to as the inside of it, the form. And this stuff actually came from Michigan, from Felted Sky. And that's a really cool shop too. They come in 2 pounds at a time. And I just had to order another 2 pounds. 2 pounds of this really, really light fluffy stuff. It's kind of crazy. But when I'm doing all these classes, I go through a lot. And it's cool, I love it. I love shopping for the wool almost as much as I love actually running the classes. Okay, so that's pretty much on here. Now I still have one more spot that I have to cover. So here's my brown again. Taking off a little piece. Now you notice I'm not doing anything to it. I'm not restacking it. I'm not doing anything because this is still that same piece that I pulled apart to wrap the original. So I know that it's the same thickness. And the less you play with it, stack it, roll it, wrap it, whatever, the more it will just kind of hide as you're felting it in. Okay, so again, using the needle, kind of put it where I want it, stabbing into place. And you can probably hear the stabs, they're a little bit more noticeable than they were before because this is still felting up. And it's getting more and more firm the more I stab. Okay. Now when you are in class, you might think, holy crap, I'm going to stab my fingers a million times. I do have finger protectors. And one of the things that I do is make sure I have enough, which is why some of the classes are limited seating to like 15 people. That's because I need to have a pad and enough needles and enough finger protectors for everybody in the class. And also I do classes at places that have limited seating. So if you're thinking about taking a class, I do highly suggest and recommend that you call or register for the class. That way we know how many people are coming, and if I need to bring extra materials, I can. And also because it's only 10 or 15, they do tend to fill up sometimes. Like the unicorn classes, I filled up 2 classes, so I had to add 2 more, and that was awesome. But you want to make sure that you get the day and the time and the class that you want. And as we're talking, just finishing up adding this color. So now it's all even. It's not finalized yet. It's still a little fuzzy. I don't know if you can see that. Still fuzzy, but I'm going to move on. And next I want to add the arms. So again, I'm taking some brown. When you're doing 2 pieces and you want them to be the same size, eyes, ears, arms, you want to take 1 piece of wool and you want to pull it in half. So you have 2 equal pieces. This way, you know that you're gonna have about the same. Sometimes you might get this like extra piece here, or this one might be a little bit thicker than you thought, but at least you're gonna get them pretty close. Thanks, Debbie. Okay, and basically I'm doing the same thing that I did in the beginning, the basic roll. I'm going to take the wool, lay it on my mat, fold it, and then roll it a couple of times. Then I'm going to roll up one side. Again, I'm attaching the other end, so I'm only folding up one end. Okay, and then I'm rolling, 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 and then I'm stabbing it into place. And I'll pick this up in just a second. You'll see what it looks like. Now this looks like it might be a little big, and I'm making 2 of these. So what I'm going to do is actually pull off some of this. So I start working a little bit smaller, and then as I felt this, it's going to get smaller, so I'm not too worried about it. If it's still too big as I'm moving along, I'll probably pull off some more, but that's another good reason to leave one side fuzzy. Okay, so I'm squeezing, felting, okay, so I'm making 2 of the arms. So far, this is what we have, just a quick reminder. This from the back, they're about the same size. The bodies, we've got the tails. And now we're making the arms, and then we're gonna make the face, and the ears, and then the heart. And so what my rule is, if I can make this in like 45 minutes to an hour, then I can teach it in about 2 hours. So I try to keep my classes down to 2 hours. Sometimes, like the unicorns, they take 3 hours. So just keep an eye on the listing. Okay. And what else can I tell you? There are 3 different, actually, techniques when you're talking about felting. There is needle felting, which this is. There is wet felting, which is basically you take the wool and you manipulate it, but instead of using a needle, you use soapy water. And you just kind of wring it out and smush it around and then dry it. And then once it's dried, it's it almost looks like this fleece. You can make paintings that way. You can make shaped things like hats, or slippers are popular. Okay, so here's pretty much one arm. I'll hold it up again. See how much smaller it got? Now I'm going to just do that one more time again. Leaving this end fuzzy. I'll leave that here. Taking the other half. I always put my needle in the top right corner. And to you it's the bottom left. But to me it's the top right. It's always here. I know where it is. It becomes second nature to just grab it from right there. And it's out of the way when I'm trying to do my next roll. Okay, so again, put it here. Fold, roll a couple of times, fold in one end only, and then finish that roll. Stab, stab, stab. And this is what it looks like right now. Again, here's this piece. So you can see how much it's going to shrink. And right now it's really fluffy and it's going to become really dense. Okay. Okay, so we're talking about wet felting. So you can make flip-flops, you can maybe make slippers, you can make hats, you can make scarves, you can make all kinds of stuff with wet felting. I haven't really dabbled that too much, but I don't know, I just prefer needle felting. So this is all needle felting. The felt painting sometimes is a different technique. If you're not going to do it wet felting, you can do so this is just a little too puffy and out of whack, so I'm just rolling in my hands, and it kind of makes it even. Now again, I pulled some off of this piece, and you can see I need to pull some off of this piece too. And the earlier and sooner you do that, the better, because it gets really hard to pull apart. So that looks about even, because this is still going to shrink up a bit. Okay. Yeah, so the felt painting is really cool. You actually start with a piece of felt that you buy at like Michael's craft store. Or you can start with a canvas, or you can start with like a muslin type material, or you can start with like an old sweater if it works. You just gotta start practicing with it. And you take wool and you just kind of lay it out the way that you want it, so you can make trees, dogs, animals, anything you want, and then you stab it into place. A lot of people do that for like pet portraits and stuff, but it's 2D, it's not 3D. Although you can add some pieces to it, I'm sure. But that's more like for like wall hangings and different things. It's just a different style. And I've been meaning to dabble with that a little bit more. It looks fun. I still prefer the 3D features though. Alright, so here are the two arms. And now I'm going to attach them to the body. Again, I'm going to attach them from the back. And then I'm going to also stab all the way forward and leave just the tip, just the hand. Just the hand available, so that when we attach the heart, it'll be able to hold it. Okay? So the trick with the hands is to make them end up at the same height. So what I like to do is attach one, and I like to look at it from the front and say, okay, that's about where I want it. So then I'm laying it on the side, stab in place just a little bit, just enough till it stays, and again, the whole thing, side and the back. And then I'm going to take a look at it again. Okay, that looks pretty good. About the right placement. You can see this one's a little chubbier than this one. Which is cool, because when you're doing handmade things, no two are the same. Okay, now I'm looking at this one, and I want it to end up the same place, so I'm looking at it this way. And then also this way. Okay, so I'm laying it down and stabbing into place. And then I'll go back and forth between the two of them. That way, if I'm stabbing in this area here, it starts to compress, and I want to also do this side so that it's nice and even. This is what the back looks like, and this is what the front looks like, and this is pretty much what it's going to end up looking like, so I need to really smooth it out. Okay, so I'm holding, pinching into place with my left hand, and stabbing it at the angle, following the curve of the arms, and stab, stab, stab. And you can see the back, the fuzzy piece that we left is really starting to disappear into the back. Okay. Now I'm stabbing the body too, because as I'm stabbing right here, that part's kind of sinking in, and this part also needs to be evened out. So I'm continuing to felt the whole body as I'm doing just the arms. So that's why I said you don't want it to be as dense as the finished product until it's a finished product. So I'm stabbing at an angle from the bottom, stabbing at an angle from the top, just to really secure it in there. And then doing the other side, stabbing at the angle, stabbing the body, stabbing the head, making sure it's still nice and even. Really stabbing out into place. You can probably see that I'm stabbing harder. The phone looks like it's shaking, sorry. Because this is thicker and I need to get all the way through it. Okay, now at this point, if this was going to stay like this, I'd probably add another piece, little tiny piece of brown right here just to even that out. But it looks like it'll be okay as soon as I finish. And again, part of it is stabbing the whole body so that it all becomes as dense as the piece that is now underneath the arm. Okay, so even that out. Look how cute that is. Okay, so now we know where all the pieces are kind of lining up, right? Now we can add the face. So for that, with the otter, I'm going to take a small piece of this light brown, and I am going to, you see how thin that is? Probably can't, but I can see through it when I look at the light, and it's just a little too thin. If I put this on here just like this, it won't show up as much, and it'll also show this brown through it. So I'm going to do is a technique called restacking, where I take this in my hand and I pull it apart, and then I put it right on top of each other. And I'm going to do that a couple of times, and it's just the same way. You don't have to turn it or anything or lay it a different way, just right on top of each other. Okay, well, maybe one more time, okay, and I can kind of see that this is going to be about the shape I want. And I'm just going to lay that, kind of making a rectangle almost, loose rectangle. Just lay that right on the face. And now with my needle, first I'm going to stab it in the center just to hold it in place, just a couple of times. And then I'm going to go around the outside. I'm going to kind of follow, if you look at this one, it follows the shape of the head, and then here, I'll move the heart. See how it kind of comes right here? So that's pretty much what I'm going to do. I'm going to make that shape on the outside of the workspace, okay, with the needle. And now it's puffy. Okay, and now I can felt the whole thing flat. Continuing to make that same shape, that same perimeter shape. I'm working on an angle because I want it to make that circle. And then just gonna go back and forth and up and down. Make sure that this is flat. Now it doesn't have to be perfectly flat because you don't want it to all disappear into there, but you do want it to look kind of like that. Okay, is that better? So again, it's not perfect, but we're not done with it yet. And now we get to add the eyes, nose, and mouth. And basically it's 3 circles and then a T. So I have my black here somewhere. Here we go. And this is more than enough. You really don't need that much. What I'm going to do is I need 2 eyes. So I'm taking one piece and I'm going to pull that in half. And I'm going to make a circles with just roll it in my fingers. Okay. I do this for a minute or so. And then if I put them down here, kind of see what they look like. Now, I almost always make them too big. So what I do is before I finish this, I'll say, okay, you know what? Again, too big. Pull this in half, and now I have 2 smaller ones. Okay. Now one of them got a little bit bigger than the other, so I'm just pulling off a little bit. Roll, roll, roll. Okay. And then I want to make a nose. So I'm taking that other piece. So now I have eye, and nose. And what I like to do is nose first, because the nose is in the center. Take it with my needle. And I'm going to put it right in the center. Okay, move the eyes over. Okay. Now you can make it like this. I've made some other otters that actually had heart-shaped noses. You can really play around with this and make it triangular, or you can make it just oval, or you can make it round. You can just put the fibers where you want them with the needle. Do everything right here on the otter. So this one's kind of shaping up to be a little bit of a triangle. Okay. And then I'm going to put the eyes a little bit higher and a little bit off to the side, but still on that lighter brown color. Okay. Do one lightly, do the other one, kind of unraveled on me. Lightly. You can see it looks kind of silly right now, but I'm going to keep stabbing. And they're going to start sinking in, and they're going to get much smaller. And I'm gonna keep stabbing the face so that it's all where I want it to be. I see a little bit on the side is kind of loosened up. I must not have gotten that before. Okay, so how cute is that? And then the mouth, gonna take a tiny little piece, ripping that in half. And now this time, instead of making a circle, I'm going to make a line. So I just kind of roll it in my fingers here. And again, this is way too big. So I'm actually gonna rip it in half the long way. It's amazing how little bit, it's just a tiny little bit that you need. I like to do the smile piece first. Okay, so I just put the line right underneath the nose, give it a little bit of space, and then stab the center of this, and then work your way out to the sides. And if you move the needle up a little bit, it will start to make that curve. This one looks like it just kind of sank in there. And then the second piece, even smaller. Gotta do that. And this one just lies down here like a T, again, way too long. Okay, it'll lie right from the nose right down to the mouth, and you basically just stab into the mouth, to the center of the mouth, and into the center of the nose, and then work your way there. Dropped it. It is even. It's not really showing up even on the camera. I don't know if it's the lighting or what, but how cute. And again, we're not done yet. Still have to even him out a bit. Okay. Still quite a bit of work to do, but we're getting there. Now I want to, sometimes I do ears, sometimes I don't. Sometimes it's like their ears are squished. This one looked really cute with the ears, and I think this one I'm going to do some ears too. So again, a little piece, put it in half. Well, with the ears, the trick is to make that line, right? And then fold it in half, so it's kind of a loop. Is that better? And then just stab that, and as you're stabbing it, it will combine and make a little bit of like a teardrop shape. And this one just feels a little small. I'm gonna fold it in half actually. See how it's like that? I'm gonna fold it, you'll still get the tail to attach it. They have teeny tiny little ears because they need to be able to close them when they go underwater. Again, a little fuzzy tail, and it's gonna sit right there. But before I attach it, I'm gonna make the other one. Okay, uh-oh. I always lose the tiny bits. Okay. This is probably too much. Okay. If you get the amount right, then it's much easier. The trick is trying to figure out how much. So make the line, fold in half, grab the bottoms, okay, and then stab it right into the pad. Okay. Kind of unfuzz it a bit by rolling on my fingers. So now I have two, and I can attach those. Okay, and I like to attach them about right on the little bit off to the side. Attach them from the back. You just stab the base, and then I like to stab the front of the base as well. So stab kind of the inner ear. And if you stab into the sides, again on the pad, just doing this so you can see it, then it helps define that roundness too. Take the other piece, put it on the other side. And stab, 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 both sides. Okay, and how cute, it's got ears. It's a little bit too high, so I'll move it down. Stab a couple more times. Okay, so now these arms are still kind of bugging me, but that's okay because we need to attach the heart. So to make the heart, here's the trick, and this is like a completely separate thing. You don't have to do this otter in order to make the heart, so it's a good place to pay attention. If you are kind of getting interested in this and you have some wool, I will be selling, I'll be putting together some kits that are like starter kits. So it'll have a needle, it'll have a pad, it'll have some white and black wool, and I'm probably gonna do like a mix of different colors. So it's kind of like a grab bag. But you could pick like pastels or I'm not sure exactly what I'm going to be doing, but I will have those available soon. And then one of the things you could do right off the bat is this heart. So I'm taking a piece of pink and I'm going to kind of make it rectangular. And you saw me restack, so I pulled it apart, stacked it right on top of each other. Okay, so now I'm kind of brushing it, kind of manipulating it just a little bit so that it looks like a rectangle. You need it to be longer than it is tall. Okay, I'm going to put this on the pad. I'm going to take my needle and stab right into the pad, right down the center, so you have this little like butterfly. It's a little stuck in there. That's going to be very helpful because you're going to take that center line and we're going to do a little bit of like origami. You take this one line here and fold it to that center line and then stab that and stab along the middle line. Okay, so now you have that. And now we're going to take the other side and fold that to that center line. Okay, and I'm stabbing right into the pad, and you can already see it's starting to look like a heart. The only piece that's kind of left is this top piece. Now you can also see that that is a gigantic heart for this thing to hold. But because I want it to be thick enough to be substantial, I'm going to start using my needle and pulling the fibers into the heart. Okay, I'm going to do that with both humps of the heart. And before I get too far, I'm going to pull this apart, stab in the center, just kind of brushing the needle in and stabbing. That way I make that shape. Okay, and before I get too far, I'm going to gently pull this off the pad, flip it over, and now I can work on it looking at me. If you don't do that, it will be incredibly hard to pull off the pad later. Okay, so now I'm going to do a little bit of pinching, like I was talking about before, and I'm really going to focus my needle on trying to get this in towards the center so that it starts to get smaller and, you know, holdable for this little guy. You can turn the pad, you can turn the piece, just pull it all in, again, roll it right in on top of each other. The quicker you roll it in, the better, because the more you stab, the harder it's going to get. The more dense it is, so it'll be very difficult, and you'll get seams if you don't bring it in quickly. And I'm sorry, I'm focusing now, so I might be babbling. Okay, flipping it over again, pinching it, because I still need to make this about a third smaller. And I'm going around the humps, making sure that these are staying even. I can see one side's bigger than the other, so I need to fix that by stabbing that bigger side towards the center a lot more. And you can see my needle is almost parallel with the pad, because I really want those fibers to get over there. Don't neglect the point at the bottom. Flipping over again, you can see it's starting to thicken up, and it's not nearly as flappy. So now I'm really going to focus on shaping. Okay, this is the dangerous part where you might want finger protectors. I'm stabbing right into that center. Okay, let's take a quick look. Like how big it is. It's cute. It is cute. And you can see this one is quite large, but this one's still a little too big. So I'm going to keep working on it. I still have some room to play. Until it's like firm as a board, you still have plenty of room to play. And because it's a heart, it doesn't matter how thick it gets. I mean, if this was like an arm, then I'd say you might want to pull some of that off. You see, I'm really pinching now. And I'm being careful with my fingers. I already stabbed myself a couple of times. Flipping it over so it doesn't get too stuck. And I don't know if you can see this or not, but it's really hard to get that part on camera. One of these days, you'll see my photography studio upstairs. I'm getting there. Someday I'll have one of those flat light cameras where it hangs from the ceiling, and I'll actually get my lighting set up. I was hoping to do this in my craft room today, so you can see how I organize all this wool. But the lighting just, with the snow, it's too dark. So I had to come downstairs. And as you can see, it's a little dark outside. So the lighting is still not quite right. Okay, see how much smaller I got? And it's still a little misshapen, but I want to see what this is going to look like. And that's pretty much the size that I was hoping for. I'm going to really squeeze it in there. I can put his paws slightly over it. So it's about the size that I want. And now I'm going to really focus on finalizing that shape. So using my fingers as guides. Okay. I'm donating my hair, so I'm growing it out. And I cannot wait to get cut off next weekend. And I can't treat it with anything. So, yeah, no. Okay. Working on that point. Working on this point. The only time I ever use glue, trying to think of what questions I've been asked before, is when I add eyes, and I don't think I have any of them here. I usually do eyes with wool, like on this little fox tattoo. But sometimes I'll add glass eyes, and those you have to glue in because they're on posts. But other than that, everything that you see here is 100% wool except for like the terracotta pot. And actually this one, there's grass inside, but I did another one that's even all the pot I filled with wool, core wool. Okay. Okay. We're good. Now I'm going to put this on. So sometimes I will add the heart just to the arms, and I could put my finger through this. And that's a little tricky, and it does tend to, I say I have to repair it because I pulled it a little too tough. So what I think I'm going to do is, because I'm going to leave it on here, I'm not going to change it out or anything, I'm going to stick this right to, I'm going to put it where I want it, and I'm going to stab it right into the body. Not the whole thing, just really the center. And then I'm going to wrap the paws around and stab the paws at the angle, make that shape. Okay, stab there. And there we have it. So now I have two cute little otters. I actually have three. I have no idea where the other one went. It's upstairs somewhere in my craft room. So now what I would do is kind of go around and make sure that everything is even and work at a real steep angle, and that helps to get rid of some of the fuzz. And if everything's okay and I really like it and maybe there's still a little bit of fuzz, like if you're using roving instead of batting, you'll get a lot more fuzz. That's when I would take out my scissors and just give it a trim. Okay, but this looks pretty good. I knew that I needed to go back to the head. One other cute little thing you can do is if you stab at the base of the head, kind of make that suggestion of a shape. It just gives a little bit more definition, a little more character. But here you go, he's floating around, ready to love. So if nobody has any questions or anything, that's pretty much it. That's all I had planned for you. Like I said, I just added some more classes to my list. I'm going to be in Naugatuck, Seymour, Monroe, and Easton. And if anybody knows any place, maybe in Milford, I've been getting some requests there, and also maybe towards like the New Haven, North Haven, or the North Haven area, or even New Haven. I'm only 15 minutes or so away from New Haven. I'd love to spend more time in the city. So let me know if you have any questions, or if you want to take a class, or if you have any questions that you wanted to talk about offline. I am off work for the rest of the day, although I will be checking my email, and I plan on making some more. So thank you so much for watching, and I will see you online or in person soon. Bye. Remember, you can do the thing.